This is my hand tool cabinet. I built it a couple of years ago, and it is made of curly maple and padauk. The whole thing follows a 3-4-5 ratio, kind of. Um, for the bottom fifth here, I had some fun with the drawers. Again, following this 3-4-5 ratio. 3 wide, 4 wide, and 5 wide. And then for the height, also 3 wide, 4 wide, 5 wide. So they all step nicely together. I thought now might be a good time to do a tour of the cabinet because I'm going to make some changes. The original plan was that this be a wall hanging cabinet. Uh, One day I don't actually have a wall to hang it on. So it's sitting on a table right now. But the plan was for this to be a wall hanging cabinet. And just after I started assembly, I realized that was a mistake. Simply by planning for this to be a floor standing cabinet, uh, after I'm gone, my son or any other relative could perhaps make use of this, even if they're not into woodworking. It might be sort of a funny looking cabinet to have in your dining room, but could be totally functional if it had a base. So I'm working on building a base for it right now, and I'm gonna make a number of changes at that time since, hey, I'll have everything out and moving it around. I'm really only telling part of the story by saying that this is curly maple. This is some spalted curly maple. I think the sides look fantastic. Um, as it turns out, this was some pretty unique material and quite hard to find any sort of match for to make the base. So for the base, I'm going in a little bit of a different direction. But here's a look at the sides. The spalting really shows off here. Hope all the curl shows off in the wood. The face frames here for the doors are also curly maple, of course, but much more just a plain old clean, premium looking curly maple. As I said, the other wood here is padauk. Now, the drawers and the doors look to have a little bit different coloring. Um, Simply, I made the drawers. I think about 9 months after I made the doors. So hopefully the age on them will catch up and the colors will even out eventually. Another detail to the external of the cabinet would be the pulls. Um, on the doors here, we've got R2D2 and a Millennium Falcon. And I found these on Etsy and thought they would just be a great way to reflect some of my interests and just make the cabinet more fun. So then going down here to the drawers, we've got more fun. Uh, Disney 50th anniversary pin. Actually, I made this one. Um, I did not buy it from Etsy. Harry Potter, Pirates of the Caribbean, a Death Star. No, not a Death Star. Star Destroyer. Transformers, the Autobots, of course. Here's the Death Star. And then in the last column here, we got the Batmobile, the Starship Enterprise, and the Avengers logo. I guess it's probably worth noting that I'm really strictly a hand tool woodworker, so all this was done by hand, including things like the mitered corners and the raised panel, down to the sliding dovetails to fit the face frame for the drawers. Of course, all the dovetails all over the cabinet and into the drawers themselves. Um, the drawers have different numbers of dovetails even. Normally I open the doors by just, well, opening the doors. Uh, Ta-da! However, actually, these are double doors, so doors within doors. And I have not fully made use of all this space yet. Um, Part of the intention with the cabinet here was to build something I could grow into. This space is obviously not particularly accessible, obviously covering up the inside of the middle of the cabinet. But extra space in the doors is really useful. Over on the right, I have plans from some of the projects I've built, chairs and bench crafted Roubo, which you can't see, but that's what my workbench is. And then over on the left here, chair making tools. For a closer look at the tools here, I have draw knives, kind of back to back or face to face, however you want to look at it. Both of these are Jason Lonin draw knives. This one on the left here is a bevel up, and the slightly smaller one on the right is a bevel down. They are fantastic, highly recommended. The reamer here is from Elia Bazari, also a great tool. And then down here on the right side of the drawer are just a couple of extra useful pieces. A drill extension and a testing leg, a fake leg. Um, all of these tool holders are things I just fashioned out of scrap um, and screwed onto the door. The tool holders on the top of the cabinet are the more interesting ones. I carved a funny little thing here to hold the end of the reamer and two arms to hold on to it. So it's a pretty perfect fit. And then the draw knives both have a shaped hanger for their handle. You can see that. All these holders are unfinished. They have no oil or shellac on them, which is what I used on the whole rest of the cabinet. This is all oil and shellac on the cabinet. And then down here is a nifty little block on a peg to twist and hold the draw knife in place. So that's sort of what locks it in. The up top here, the handle sits pretty tightly in the cradle, and then down below here, that little block just works to retain it. The one on the left works exactly the same way. Again, a well-shaped handle holder, and then just a block on the pin. Over here on the right-hand side of the cabinet doors, the inner doors, I have my plans. And the way they're held in here is just, I had this funny shaped offcut, and I thought it looked pretty good as a more organic piece. And so rounded over the edges and screwed it on. All of the doors are held together with these, I guess they're ball clasps. There's two little balls in there that shift out of the way to lock closed. And on each end is an adjustment. You can use a screwdriver to loosen or tighten the hold. So I have the inner doors here set to be relatively tight, so that when I open the doors, the inner doors stay together. The doors also have these cutaways here to make it easy to get my hands into, to be able to pull the doors open. Here's a look at the inside of the tool cabinet. In the center, of course, are all the planes. On the right-hand side at the top are different drivers and spoke shaves, and on the bottom are an assortment of chisels. And on the right-hand side are measuring and marking tools, as well as a couple hammers. Closer look at everything. These are Lee Nielsen drivers. This is let's see, both saw nut drivers, and then on the bottom here, frog adjustments. This one's a burnisher. Some spoke shave I found at a vintage tool sale. It's okay. It was the first one I bought. I've since gotten much better options. This is the HNT Gordon round bottom spoke shave. I haven't used it a whole lot, but enough to be able to enjoy just how good it is at refining really tight interior curves. By far the best spoke shave here is a Caleb James round bottom spoke shave. Not too long ago, he had a run of monster shaves, and I really wish I could have justified the money to get one of those, but I didn't. So I'll make do. And then the bottom two here are just the Lee Nielsen flat bottom and round bottom spoke shaves. Both good, but the Caleb James one does the job of both of those better. Cuts heavier, cuts lighter, more fun to use. Definitely the best one. Going down the left-hand door here, this is a name tag I made at the Maine Woodworking event back in August. Kind of hard to see, but I wrote on it, Dan wants a shaper origin. Actually, I didn't write. I guess I don't even know what's the word. Not engraved. Anyway. And then a little egg beater drill. Works good. Finally, at the bottom of the drawer here, all the chisels. There are 2 rows. The ones in front here are just the normal bevel chisels that I most typically use. It is a mix of the new Stanley Sweetheart 750s and some Lee Nielsen chisels. Of course, over here on the right, these are not chisels. These are awls. In the back here, I've got 2 mortising chisels, a 1/4 inch and 3/8 inch from Lee Nielsen. I suggest not bothering with the 3/8. 1/4 inch is all you need. I'm not even sure that a 1/4 inch mortising chisel is necessary. 1/4 inch bevel chisel works just fine. I've got a monster 2-inch wide in the back here, which is sometimes useful for breaking through a straight line, and a couple of blue spruce chisels, 1/2 inch paring chisel here, 2 of their dovetail chisels, 1/4 inch and an 1/8 inch. I went for such narrow ones because really I'm just interested in using these to get into tight corners. And then a dovetail chisel. This one is a 3/8 inch, I believe. That's not a dovetail chisel, it's a fishtail chisel. And another little burnisher. This is the AccuBurr, and I turned the handle for it to make it easier. This would be my preferred burnisher for carb scrapers. Yeah. Again, I made all of the tool holders, of course, for these things. 6 hooks on the spoke shave holder. I would love to add a few more of the Caleb James varieties. Um, the Lee Nielsen screwdriver and burnisher holders are all just a round hole with easy access to be able to pull them in and out. The driver holder is actually set in here at an angle. I'm trying to hold the camera straight to show that it is at a slight angle, and that just lets um, the egg beater fall towards the back of the door so it stays in place. The chisel holders here are padauk, and again just have some recesses cut. Um, these are not a perfect fit for all of them. I've had to refine a few of the spots for the bigger shanked tools, but it works pretty well. And then for this back row, there's another board there with some magnets to help hold them in place. The magnets do a great job of holding things steady. Um, I feel like I should put something in the front row here because these are just hanging out, but they all hang in quite well, so maybe I don't actually need anything else. Middle, the main area of the cabinet starts out with a shelf up at the top here. Um, it's solid 8 inches tall and plenty of room for a couple of planes, like some of my great grandfather's, sanding supplies, another Jason Lonen tool. Um, this is uh, this is an in-shave for carving out the bowl of the seats, and I just used some leather to put together a sheath for it. Um, tin from when we went to Disney World and went on the Galactic Star Cruiser. I'm kind of sad to see that that's closed. This is a nice little memento, and that was an amazing one-of-a-kind kind of sort of trip. So on the left-hand side, there's a shelf here at the top, and then go down to planes and some of their various holders. The shelf here on the top holds a couple of just odds and ends. The most notable thing back here has got to be the Travisher. I really wish I had a better spot to display this with its claro maple body. Really nice stuff. This was made by Alan Williams, and again, it's a great chair making tool. Also inside here, let's see, left to right, my parents just gave me a Polisseur. I have yet to get wax on it or try to use it, but something I would like to. I turned a tiny little bowl and I just keep block of beeswax in it, and that's how I rub down the soles of planes to run them a little smoother. Veritas small spoke shave, some bottles of Boss Dog glue from the main woodworking event, another little bowl that I turned. I have a burl of hickory, and this one just holds quarters, which I use to level the legs when making chairs. Stepping down here to the planes, um, this is a piece of bird's eye maple that's sitting at an angle to rest the plane bodies on. Up here on the right hand side is a spot for router plane, large router plane, Veritas large router plane. It fits well, but I don't know, I'm not really pleased with the way the magnets hold it. Need some bigger magnets or more magnets, and I just haven't revisited that to modify it. Uh, Over here on the left-hand side, up top is the stainless steel Veritas pocket plane. I don't remember what this was for. 30th anniversary, 100th anniversary, something like that. It's very pretty, and it's a great tiny size. And then beneath that here is a Lee Nielsen white bronze um, plane. I don't remember, is this the number 102? Probably even says on here. I don't see it. Anyway, this is also a really fantastic little plane. Both of these have a slight recess to hold the plane a little more stably. I don't know, in case the cabinet were to fall over. I don't know. Um, just a tight little fit. It was just a fun detail to be able to make the plane holders and make them such perfect fits. Same with this guy here. You can just see the shadow of the cutout there. And so then we get into the bigger and more normal kind of planes. On the left here, we've got the Lee Nielsen 40.5 scrub, a Veritas block plane, Lee Nielsen number 2, Stanley Bailey number 3. That's this guy here, Stanley Bailey number 3. And this is the number 2, in case you weren't sure. And then we've got Stanley Bailey number 4, which was never really a great one for me. And so I had long ago opened up the mouth and rounded the cutter here so that it could be a scrub plane. This was only like the second plane I had ever bought, and I bought it with the intention of making it a scrub if I couldn't make it a smoother. So yeah, it became a scrub. I didn't get the Lee Nielsen scrub until years later, Christmas gift from my wife. And then on the end here, we've got the Lee Nielsen number 4 in bronze, of course. The Lee Nielsen planes are absolutely fantastic. I feel like their cost is justified by how easy they are to get started with. There is no fiddling to make it work better. It does work better out of the box, and you can get to work. And then you can also use that to understand how some of these older planes should work so that you can tune them up if you want to. All right, so let's jump down to the bottom of the left-hand side of the cabinet here. There's a couple of dividers that are dadoed in. So this is actually a shelf, but the plain board basically covers it. I mentioned how this could be, I imagine that this cabinet could be potentially reused by my son or some other future ancestors if they're not into woodworking. And all these pieces are just screwed in. Um, the plane boards, the boards that the planes rest against, um, are actually not screwed in. They're just they're just in place by the weight of everything and a tight fit. So that can come out easily and just be a little shelf, and who knows what it could be used for. But a little shelf can be reused a lot easier than a slanted plain board. Anyway, back here on the bottom, I've got a couple of dividers. I am left-handed, so there's the left-handed skew rabbet plane from Veritas. It is okay. It's the best I've found. Um, neither the stop, neither the depth stop nor the fence really stay set very well, um, but it works. Over in the next cubby here, I've got the, again, left-handed um, small plow plane from Veritas. I don't actually use this as much as I thought I would. Um, I think I primarily have ended up using it for drawer bottoms, for cutting a groove for drawer bottoms. And actually, that's since been supplanted by um, up here on the top. I got a uh, grooving plane, so I've been using that. Anyway, down here in the cubby, we've got a couple little pieces for the turntable, and then the remote for the amp, so that I can have music while I work down here sometimes. Finally, in this last cubby, there's the most stuff. Lee Nielsen brush. I like this a lot. I use it quite a bit. A Veritas shoulder plane. I'm not sure what size this is. I'm going to guess medium. um, I use this, I like and use this a fair bit. Not as a shoulder plane though, only really as a rabbiting plane because the iron extends right to the edge, so I can get into tight places. One day maybe I'll get a regular rabbiting block plane to replace this. I think that would be more useful, but I already have the shoulder plane. Also in here is a little jig I made for marking chair legs. Um, it's padauk, holds a pencil, and can be adjusted to whatever height I need, and just run around and draw a line on things. Also in here is a little control, little knife, and Mossart Press's Woodworker's pocketbook. Honestly, I think I've looked through this just a handful of times and put it back, and I'm not sure I've ever truly made use of it. So going through the cabinet here, it's become very clear just how much dust is on stuff. I really should have cleaned it before giving the tour. Oh. So the right-hand side of the main case, up top here is a sort of, I think, failed experiment. I was hoping to make something kind of nifty to be able to hold some weird tools, and I'm not sure it really works that well. It's just a board with several half circles cut out to hold things in place. So in front here, we've got a draw knife. It is a fine draw knife, but nothing special. I really just don't use this one anymore now that I have the Jason Lonen ones, which are special, and just don't have anywhere else good to put it. Two braces. The black one here, I believe, this was one of my great-grandfather's tools. And this one I just keep permanently mounted a little, oh, what is this even called? I can't think of it. You know, to a little chamfer bit, a little bit to cut in and ease corners of screw holes or anything like that. And then over here on the right are the two other Jason Lonen tools that I have. This is the carving axe. It is a fantastic piece of equipment. The handle here is really nice. It's a great shape to be able to hold it and get into places more easily. Just the way that the handle curves out of line with the axe head. Very nice. And then over here is also another one of his tools, one of the adzes. This is not the chair maker's adze, but like a shallow sweep adze, I think. Um, a good tool, but honestly, I've since switched to just using the in-shave for all of my seat carving. So we've also got another piece of bird's eye maple here, making up a plain board, sitting at an angle for these all to rest at. And obviously these are the bigger planes. Left hand small planes, right hand big planes. So again, I'm left-handed, so this is a left-handed Veritas shooting plane. I would say it is definitely a luxury to have a shooting plane. However, it is a fantastic plane, and if you're doing much like box making or anything where you're really trying to fit small pieces square, it is a fantastic plane. There's some nifty holders here to make it sit at an angle. Holders, really just blocks of padauk with the angle cut into them. And so that just changes how the plane sits in the holder. So rather than having the handle coming out at an angle here, when it's set flat, the handle really just lines up much more nicely. I really can't do this very well, holding the phone and trying to show this stuff off. So you can see how straight out the plane handle sits then. Right next to it here is a Lie-Nielsen number 5, a fantastic plane, perhaps my most used at this point. And right next to it here is the Lee Valley, the Veritas low angle jack. This was the first plane that I got. I think it was a very good plane to start with. It works very well, and there's nothing about it to complain, except that the more that I use it and other planes, the more that I realize that bevel up just feels so much better to me. And if I knew what I knew now, if I knew what I know now, I would have just bought bevel up planes and would have just started with the Lie-Nielsen number 5. Next to that, over here, we've got a Stanley Bailey number 6, which is ground with a slight curve in the cutter, in the iron. This one works well enough for the sort of 4-plane rough removal job it's supposed to do, but it's not great. Most of the time, actually, I'm going to say that if I am looking to do like cleanup after scrubbing, rather than going to this number 6, I'll often go to the number 7 over here, the Veritas. I guess it's not actually a number 7. The Veritas low angle joiner. I will choose that instead of the 6. It has as much or more mass, and it has an adjustable mouth, so it can be opened up to take a much bigger bite, just like the 4-plane. and it handles a little bit better. Odds and ends sitting out right now. Um, a few these are a few things that I got at the main woodworking event back in August. Um, Union dovetail marker and 90-degree square. These have been nice to use. I've rather enjoyed those. And this Goodfella tint base was actually a freebie, so I haven't tried it yet. A little bit of a design flourish would be the center vertical divider here. This is again some sort of curly brown maple with a funny curve to it here, but just adds a little bit of an organic shape into the very boxy um, cabinet. And all the other joinery is dados and um, some sliding dovetails and such like that. It's really just the tool holders that use screws. On the right hand door um, is all the red woodpeckers. I've got the 36, 24, and 12-inch rulers. These are the center scale slash standard scale rulers. So on the one side right here is a zero marking, 0 through 6, 0 through 6, and then over on this side is just 0 through 12. I like those a lot. The red on white I find much, much easier to read than um, than the typical, rulers like on the right hand side. Um, the 1281 and 642 are fantastic squares, lots of wonderful little details to them. Um, the little cutout here to be able to get right into your corner, all the little extra markings to be able to slot a pencil into to help draw a line just where you want it. Um, the measurements are accurate um, across all of the woodpeckers tools. So 1 inch here, I'm confident is 1 inch on a ruler. So that's nice. And these feel great in the hand. I like these a lot. Not to be outdone though is a little 4 inch square here from Hillview Tool. Um, I like the 4 inch size a lot. Um, this is obviously more of a precision marking thing than a gross marking tool, but the 4 inch square I like using that a lot. So this one from Hillview was from what 2023 I think, maybe 2022 even. Brass body. Um, I think this is a redwood burl that Tony gave me. I asked for a surprise, so that's cool. Um, and I like just how heavy it is in the base here. Very nice to use. I guess another order period is probably coming up soon for him, so um, I think he usually does them right at the start of the year. So if you can get into it, do it. The last tool in view here would be the Vesper bevel gauge. Um, this is this is phenomenal. Um, if I have opportunity to buy more of Chris's tools, I will. He hasn't made any in years and years. This was the last run he did, I believe, 2020. Um, I met him a couple of years before that and hemmed and hawed about buying one of these and decided to skip it at the time. Um, kind of wish I hadn't. So the 4 inch size here, I find most useful. I know this is much smaller than the typical 8 or 10 inch, but for transferring angles and drawing dovetails at weird angles and stuff. I like that small size a lot. And just like with the Hillview, the brass body is a great addition just to make it weighty in the hand. It locks like nothing else. Um, the real value in any bevel gauge comes down to how well it locks, and the Vesper locks completely securely, um, unlike any other that I've ever tried. So yeah, if I ever get the chance, I will buy another. Going down the right-hand door here, I've got this funny little organizer for some dividers, all different sizes. Uh, this funny-looking one I use the most. I don't. There are no maker marks on it, and there's there's something funny about it. The nut here is definitely like blacksmith made, something custom, you know, uh, something pretty unique, and it's also definitely my favorite. I think this was maybe a Starrett, like a 4 inch. Can't read it. I'm blind. And these two were from Lee Valley. Nothing special, but great for laying out bigger work. And further down on the right hand door here, a Lee Nielsen um, hammer, plane adjusting hammer, a trusty Cook 2 pound dead blow in special run yellow. At least it used to be special run. I don't know what colors they offer now. Um, I always intended to replace this with another more woodworking appropriate mallet, but it's just so good at so many things, and I use it all the time because of that. Veritas marking gauge, a Woodpecker's marking gauge, and a Bridge City Toolworks marking gauge. This one is definitely my favorite. Um, it's it's great. Brass wear plate and the the wood inlay and the knob and uh, just the fit of it. It's a very nice tool. So all the way down on the bottom, I made a little holder for tape measure. I like these DeWalt 9 foot ones. They're very small, but truthfully, I think this is all that a typical woodworker needs. Like, you don't need to be able to measure 16, 25, 35 feet when most of the things that we make are probably only like 4 foot, 5 foot lengths max. So I like how wonderfully small this is, and much easier to use just because of that small size. But it's also not one of the like super tiny ones where you can't hardly read it because it is so tiny. And then I just threw some magnets onto here, and you know it's a great little holder. If you're still watching, you might be curious about the drawers, and so we'll look through them. The tiniest one here, I keep all the scrapers in, um, and then this is a chair spindle gouge um, tool to check your sizes. Back here is a dowel plate. The second drawer, wow, is almost empty. I feel like I had something here. Anyway, beater, um, a couple little ends for ferrule ends for making some file handles and such like that. And then down here in the bottom drawer, these are all chair making tools, leg saws, arm size and spindle size rounding planes. These are all Elia Bizarri made, and yeah, they work quite well. Um, I wish I could say that I get to use them more. The Star Destroyer drawer. These are squares that I made as a hand tool school project several years ago. The miter square does not see much use. The square does see a good bit of use. The handle on both of these is made from apple. Um, we had an apple tree in the yard, and it occurred to me just before burning the last piece of firewood that maybe I should save some of it. So I was able to get a little bit out of it. The blade here is hickory, and that is also from our property. We have a fair number of hickory trees, though, so that's a little less special. Another 4-inch square. This is a start. This is the one I really used before the hill view. Down in the transformers drawer, more marking and measuring tools. Brown and sharp 12-inch combination square. This was my grandfather's. I use the outside calipers fairly often. I have a tiny set here as well. Sector I made. I had hoped to use this more, but I really haven't. Also, I feel like every time I use it, I get very wrong results. So maybe that's just me. I'm not sure. I also have one of the Crucible Tools dividers. I thought I was going to like this a lot, just the kind of action, and um, I don't. It it doesn't suit me for some reason. I don't feel like it's that great in the hand. The movement to open and close is um, I suppose it's the right stiffness, right? It needs to be stiff in order to hold position, but it's hard to make small adjustments with it. Um, so yeah, it's in the drawer. And down here in the Death Star drawer, a couple of books and other plans. Chairmaker's Notebook is the best woodworking book there is, period. Especially if you're a chairmaker, but it just covers so much stuff. Very worthwhile. Now, the last bank of drawers, the Batmobile drawer, is carving gouges. Um, I have a 735 and a 335. The very wide ones have been nice for trimming tenons when making chairs. Um, I don't know. I just find the very large sweep great for being able to take a long cut and and paring the tenon down quickly. The Enterprise drawer, the bar gauges here. I very much enjoy these. I got these Rockler bar gauges when they were first introduced, and I want to say it was only like $12 for two of these blocks. Totally worthwhile. So yeah, I use the Galbert Draw Sharp to sharpen the draw knives. This is an excellent tool to help maintain the edge of them. This is a hammer that I made. I don't remember the guy who cast these heads, but I bought a head and cleaned it up and did an infill for it. I probably should have bought the larger head. I kind of like the small head, thinking that it would be more easily controlled and all. And I think I probably should have bought the regular size head. Oh, finally down here in the Avengers drawer is a well, a bit of everything. Journals, inks for the pen. Actually, the only woodworking tools in here would be the cabinet scraper and auger bits. Um, yep. So that's it.